Hi, thanks for joining me. This is Jessie, and today I'm going to be reviewing Paradox Hotel by Rob Hart. And I want to thank Yewon Sun from Random House for offering an advanced reader copy of this book. When I received the email offering me this book, it was posited as for readers who enjoyed Rabbits by Terry Miles. And I definitely enjoyed Rabbits by Terry Miles, so it grabbed my attention right away. After reading the book, I feel like I need to go back and read Rabbits because I'm left kind of scratching my head where the parallels are, but I did enjoy this book. So the book follows January Cole. She works at Paradox Hotel, which is a base for where people can pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go time traveling. Of course, there's rules. You can't leave anything there. You can't take anything back. You can't interfere or try to change things. You can't travel to the same stream as your life. So as you go through the book, you realize that there's ramifications for constant time traveling. If you're going to go just once for a once in a lifetime opportunity, like somebody going to space, that's okay. But if you're constantly going through different time streams and time traveling like January does, it leaves certain lasting effects. And so she's become unstuck. She's letting everybody think that she's in the first phase, but she is actually in the second phase and probably barreling pretty quickly toward the third phase. Being unstuck means that she sees things that have happened in the past in the location that she's at, things that are going to happen in the future. And her therapist has very forcefully recommended that she leave the hotel, because just the radiation that comes from time traveling so often there is going to push her into the third phase. And the third phase is really, it's grotesque. And so either she's going to die bleeding out her mouth and nose and ears, or she's going to be a vegetable for the rest of her life when she hits that third phase. But January doesn't want to leave because her girlfriend Mena, who died in an explosion in the kitchen there at the hotel, she sees her constantly, and she can't bear the thought of leaving somewhere where she'll never see Mena. So she stays on, and she becomes kind of like an investigator for the hotel. So she makes sure that people follow the rules. She investigates, certain mysteries that come along. It kind of felt like this wasn't sure it wanted to be a science fiction or a noir fiction to me, but it worked. She's followed around by an Alexa Roomba type robot she calls Ruby, along with a number of other snarky names. She throws her boot at it regularly. But Ruby has access to all the system of the Paradox Hotel. So when weird things start happening, for example, somebody brings back raptor eggs, which is against the rules. But they bring back raptor eggs which were allegedly just laid. And within hours, they're hatched, which is not supposed to happen. And so when she finds the guy who brought them back, he's like, no, I know that they were just laid. They're not supposed to hatch for a couple months. She's like, well, they're hatched and they're running around the halls biting people's ankles. And then within a few more hours, these raptors they're bigger. They look like they're adolescents. And so there's a suggestion that in the same way that January is unstuck, that something is happening at the hotel that's causing the time to flow in a manner that it's not meant to. So that's the first mystery that she's going through at the moment. Another one is that there's a summit. See, the Paradox Hotel is owned by the government, and it's allegedly losing money. So the government is looking to cut its losses and sell it to a private entity while maintaining the same security measures that it is. And so, like, those same rules that I told you, and also having the medical staff on site so that they can make sure everybody's vaccinated so they don't come back with some disease that's already been eradicated. And there's 4 bidders. They're all, like, super rich, like stupid rich. One of them, I believe, is a businessman who owns a lot of companies. One of them is a Saudi prince. There's still, like, government people involved in this. And there seems to be video missing, because when January is using Ruby to try to go through the surveillance systems, there's time problems. Like, you'll see it go backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, and there's video missing. And so they start to wonder if maybe somebody's hacked into their system and is messing with it, and if it's not one of these people who are there to bid on the hotel. And then there's the problem of the not there dead body in room 527. So January initially thinks that it's just because she's unstuck. She thinks she's seen something that's going to happen in the future. But as the day goes on and as the days go on and she keeps going into this room, it never changes. And it's like it just happened. Like there's a bead of splashed blood in midair. And when she tries to touch the body, like her hand goes through it, but she can feel some resistance. Ruby, of course, when she scans the room, isn't picking anything up, and when she brings other people into the room, they don't see it. And so we go through this journey with January and Ruby, and it's really fun to see the dynamic between January and this robot. And I had fun with this book. Time travel and robots aren't normally subjects that I read. I did just, finish the first book of the Murderbot Diaries, which I thought was really interesting, and I do plan on going back to read more. Time travel, I haven't read too much on. I may have read Timeline by Michael Crichton, but if I did, it was a really long time ago. I recall enjoying the movie, but that's about it with time travel. But this book it really sucked me into the storyline. The only problem that I had was that I really wanted to like the other characters more. Her boss, Alan, her friend, Cameo. And after Mena died, they were reaching out to her to try to comfort her, to try to walk her through her grief, to be there for her. And I think it was Cameo who said at one point that they had been reaching out to help her, but there was only so many times that they could extend their hand and have her bat their hand away before they just stopped trying. And these moments, these singular moments that January has, either at the time or looking back and remembering that she has with these other characters, they make me want to like them. It makes me want to love them. But these characters, I felt like they weren't really fleshed out. Aside from January and Ruby, I felt like the rest of the cast were two-dimensional. I feel that there could have been a lot more done with them. And I really, really would have liked to had more to hang on to, especially like I said with Alan and Cameo. But I felt like it was just all focused on January and Ruby and the time travel and the summit. And even the bidders at the summit, I felt like they weren't entirely fleshed out. All in all, it was a fun read. It wasn't very long. It wasn't a heavy read. And I am going to, when I do finally get around to posting my review on Goodreads and sending this to the publisher, I'm going to have to give it a 3 out of 5. I really enjoyed it and I wanted to give it a 4, but because we had those issues with the other characters not really being fleshed out, I don't feel that I can rate it more than a 3. I do recommend you picking it up. It's set to be released in February, so next month, and it's possible that there's going to be some changes in there that are going to make these other characters feel more real as you're reading it, and hopefully that's something that they change when they release it. But even if they don't, like I said, it was a really interesting book. It was fun to read. The dynamic between January and Ruby was really interesting, and at some point I think it started to feel like Ruby was a sentient being. Ruby says a lot of things that make it clear that she's aware that she's just a robot, and that she doesn't have like feelings and emotions. But as you go through the book and January keeps throwing boots at her and calling her a vacuum, at some point it does start to feel like Ruby has emotions. Like these things that January say to her are offensive, they're hurtful because she's always there with January. And so Ruby also kind of falls into that list of people who have tried to be there for January, but January just doesn't know how to let people in or things, because apparently she hasn't let Ruby in either. Like I said, it was a fun book. It touches on time travel, ghosts, grief, emotions, and so I would recommend picking it up if you have a chance. It's not, as far as I know, it's a standalone book, so it's not like you're going to be picking up like a 10 to 15 tome series. So, and that's about it. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe below.